Perfect. Rhythms for scale. So we're going to be chatting about the different kind of rhythm pulses in an organization. And the first thing I just want to do is just share something with you guys that has been really meaningful for us on our journey. And that's the couple of books that really unpack the frameworks of the rhythms and strategy for an organization. And Donna's doing the next session on strategy, which all of these books really cover super well as well. And then also creating just the framework or the operating system for your company. These are really the handbooks by which to build. So Scaling Up is a really in-depth piece done by the Growth Institute guys, Vern Harnish and the EO crowd. Anything from Jim Collins on strategy and leadership is absolutely amazing. The E-Myth is a really great resource for people who are experts in the area of business. They came from a previous expert position and they're trying to start a company around their expertise, and they have to figure out how to get out of the way from being and moving from the expert to the business owner kind of executive leader. And then Traction is a really good framework that summarizes in a kind of like a simple manner all of the three other resources. So if you haven't covered any of these, I'd recommend starting with Traction, basic 20-part framework, and then branching out to all of the rest of them. If you're new into business or you're struggling to grow an early stage company, E-Myth is absolutely for you. And if you want to get into the depth of it, Jim Collins and Scaling Up definitely are some great frameworks. So let's start at the top. So the first thing before we can look at all of the different periodic rhythms within an organization, you need this like one big drive, like where are you ultimately heading? And in Scaling Up, they called the term a BHAG. I think Jim Collins actually coined this. So it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. What is that larger than life goal that the company wants to ultimately achieve that would put a dent in the universe, that will really make a massive difference? That's kind of like 10, 20, 25 years, a whole career in the future that you'd have to work really hard at. So that BHAG sits at the very top of your Mount Everest. And there are then different kind of like steps towards that. The next quarter, the next year, the next 3 to 5 years. And ultimately, if you repeat that enough times and you keep climbing, you get to the top of that BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal. So figure out how to craft that. All of these frameworks have got really nice kind of layouts of how to go about creating the BHAG for your organization. At Outsource CFO, we've put this out a couple of years ago. We're accountants, so we said we want to do our BHAG has to be numbers. We said 10,000 and 1,000. Those are our two big numbers. We want to serve 10,000 entrepreneurial companies, and we want to empower 1,000 finance professionals on that journey. So those are our two major numbers. And if we keep growing like we're growing right now, we'll be there in about 10 years' time. So watch this space. Along with that, we also just said we want a flourishing team, raving fan clients, and we want to do sweet spot work. Otherwise, these numbers are quite empty. So that's just our concept of a BHAG. From there, you can then say, what must we do in the next 3 years? Like, what must we look like in 3 years' time if we want to get to our BHAG ultimately? So it's hard to really project accurately 3 years into the future. Look at what the last 2 years look like. So this is almost a philosophical picture, like kind of like what is that compelling vision for what the company can look like in 3 years from now? And Donna's going to cover some of the detail on this framework and strategy as well. From there, you can say, right, we know kind of where we're heading. Ultimately, we know what we want to look like in 3 years. Let's build a plan for this year. And this is then kind of the major 1 year goals that you'd like to achieve. Like, how do you structure that? And what are the core kind of pieces? And then we get to a quarterly pulse meeting. We love it. 90-day planning. We've been doing this for 5-6 years in our organization. You ask all your leaders, what should we stop, start, and keep doing in the organization? You get all of that detail on the table. And then you figure out what the main priorities for this quarter are. And there's many ways that you can distill it down into the absolute core pieces. And then there's a framework in which you can put it together. What do we want? Why is this important? How will we get there? What will it look like when we've achieved this? And who is responsible? You do these 90-day check-ins, and this is your strategic framework at the end of the day. Then there's an exciting piece called the Level 10 Weekly Meeting, a very nice 90-minute pulse meeting that's in the Traction book that sets out kind of like how to kind of lead your team on a weekly basis. And then the Daily Huddle is also a super valuable concept. Scaling Up really focuses on this, getting all your teams into the room at the beginning of each day and asking them, what was your number one win? What's your number one priority? And where are you stuck? And just getting that communication to pulse through the organization very fast. And then lastly, just one-on-ones for you as an executive or founder, just speaking to your team in a one-on-one format is really powerful. Mike Scott, a good friend of mine, has a really great piece called 21 Questions to Ask Your Team Every 90 Days, just for those one-on-ones if you're unsure of how to get the most out of it. So that's a very quick glance from my side of the rhythms that drive a great scale-up company's framework. I'm happy to chat about any of these offline if you guys want to.